I got a question the other day from a fellow composer, and I think it's a great question. I'm going to leave a screenshot here so you can read it as I am answering to this question. Now, the way I get motivated when I don't feel motivated in order to compose music, or the way he put it, what is my why in doing what I do beyond the money, is because I feel that I have a potential that I haven't used fully. When I got started in music, I was just a kid. I just wanted to play guitar. I wanted to be Slash from Guns N' Roses. And I just fell in love with that sound. There was something about the sound of the guitar that just, I felt attracted to it. My brother, he was playing the piano, and whenever I will go to his piano lessons to go with my mom and pick him up from the piano lessons, I will hear these beautiful melodies and all these beautiful sounds that he was, playing in the piano. And I was fascinated by music. So I've always been attracted by music. I mean, if I rewind even further back, when I was a kid, I was probably 6 or 5 years old, and I would listen to vinyl records. I would literally wake up in the morning when it was at the weekends and whatnot, and I will listen to records. I will put my headphones and I will listen to records, vinyl records back then. Okay, obviously I'm dating myself by saying this, but that was back in 1980. 1981 to be precise, so I was around 5 or 6 years old. So I always had this fascination for music. And I think music is a universal language. I mean, you don't need to be a musician or an expert in order to comprehend and understand the power of music. The reason why we are doing music varies from person to person. In my case, as I was growing older and I decided to pursue guitar as an instrument, and learn, okay? Like literally just go to school and learn about music, how to read music. Like I went the orthodox way. I learned how to play classical guitar first, and then, eventually I got to play an electric guitar, which was my real passion, right? I mean, if you want to be Slash, you don't want to start playing the guitar by reading music and learning how to play classical guitar. That's the last thing that you want. You want a Les Paul, and you want a Marshall amp. So one of the reasons why I have a Les Paul today, okay, this is my favorite guitar. The reason why I have this is because when I was a kid, I was a massive fan of Guns N' Roses and Slash, and it's the band that I got into when I was, I was probably 12, 13, and I got into rock and roll because of them, and that's the reason why I have this guitar. Okay, it's kind of like a childhood dream, if you will. But back then, I got into a band. I got into heavily into music. I let my hair grow, the whole thing. I even bought some cowboy boots back then. And I was living in Venezuela. I mean, it's really odd to be in such a tropical country and start wearing some cowboy boots and leather jackets and all of this. It's quite warm, so you don't need to wear this type of clothing anyways. But I got into music, and I followed that path for many years. After that, I came in contact with recording, right? I discovered music production and recording, and I went to study sound engineering. When I finished high school, I had to figure out something to do, right? I needed to go to school, to university or something. So this is where I discovered that you can actually learn about music production and recording studios. And when I was in the band, I went to a recording studio, and I was just blown away by all the gear. And it was just like, wow, this is a different world, man. I really feel that this is something that I want to be part of. Not just a guitar player, but now I want to be involved in music production. So I went and transitioned from thinking that I just want to play the guitar, being in a rock band, and now I discovered recording studios, and I was just obsessed about this process. I went to study for sound engineering, and then I quickly learned that that you can record songs. So I could play my guitar, and I can record my own playing. And this is where everything changed for me, because I'm not just a performer anymore. Like, I'm not just performing and playing the instrument, but I'm actually recording my own playing. And that really, really fascinated me. That took it to another level. I got a job in a recording studio, and forgive me if I am going deep into different tangents here, but I'm gonna arrive to today and why I still do this. and this is the purpose of this video. But when I got into a recording studio to work, I was, for the first time in my life, working in an environment where I can actually be around other musicians and learn the whole techniques of the real world, like how to record a demo, how to record an album, how to record my own albums and my own demos. So I learned quite a lot, and I was fascinated about that lifestyle. You know, I really felt like I have accomplished something big. And then, you know, I traveled the world. I went to America first, and then I went to England, which is the place of my birth. But in Venezuela, funny enough, I'm wearing a Venezuelan shirt today. But in Venezuela is where I actually, you know, educated myself in a great school run by a guy who was just, well, he's still alive. You know, he's not that old, but, you know, I mean, he's old, but he's not that old that he has passed away. Great guy who had a private recording school, recording studio school. You know, I'm not sure if it's still open, but, you know, everybody that was in Caracas, Venezuela, they wanted to study sound engineering. That will be the private school to go. It's like the Full Sail in America or in Florida, or what's the other one called? It's Full Sail and another one. Anyways, I mean, when I went to that school, I was like, oh my God, I mean, I could barely afford to just, you know, pay the semester, but that was it for me. I got a job in a recording studio. I got all of my experience. So I was around all of this world of music production and recording for the longest time. And then when I traveled the world, when I moved to the States and then to England, I was kind of disconnected from the music because of employment, obviously, you know. I didn't get a job in the States in a recording studio or as a musician or anything like that. I mean, I played in a band, but nothing really serious. And then when I got to England, I got a job in a guitar shop. I was still trying to pursue this thing of music production. That was my aim. I didn't want to play in a band. I wanted to be in a recording studio, but then, you know, I had trouble to find my way into that world again. At least the way I found to do it in Venezuela. In Venezuela, everything seemed to be, you know, there for me. And I guess it's because, you know, I grew up there. I knew the right people. I mean, they hired me in that studio before I even graduated from the recording college. You know, before I got my diploma, I was already working in a studio. And the only reason why that happened is because they trust me, the boss trusts me, and I was a regular customer in that studio. And, you know, they can see that I had some potential that, you know, for this. But in England, I was working in a guitar shop. Is where I got this beauty, by the way. And at the time, computers, and, you know, they were really affordable, obviously, right? And that I was like, okay, this is something that I can probably do now. Maybe I don't want to work in a recording studio. Maybe I don't want to record somebody else's music. Maybe I could just do this on my own, right? So laptops were becoming really powerful in computers, and that was it. I was working in a guitar shop and all day, and then at night I will go home, and on my days off I will record my demos. And I spent a few years doing that, acquiring gear. I mean, you have to think that I started from scratch when I moved to England, you know. I mean, when I went to the States, I just went with a backpack and one acoustic guitar, and that was it. And when I arrived in England, it was the same thing. I arrived with nothing. I mean, I had nothing, man. I didn't know anybody, so I had to rebuild my life from scratch and get a home. It's where I met my wife, by the way. Back then, she was my girlfriend. And I started to acquire gear. So I got the computers, I got the guitars, and I slowly found myself in a place where I have full control. And this was something new to me because, you know, I grew up without the internet. I grew up without computers, right? I didn't have this when I was studying sound engineering. You know, when I was going to study sound engineering, it would have been amazing to just go to the college, to just study this, be there, and then go home and practice with my computer, right? Like just put in practice all of that. You know, I mean, I'm old school. I learned how to cut and edit with a razor blade on a tape. That was one of my last exams, was that, to get a kick drum or some piece of music on I don't remember how many inches was the tape, but with the headphones, and actually listen to it and go like slowly, like DJs go, but with a tape, and actually try to find a transient and go with a razor blade and actually cut it, and then get some tape and actually tape it, and then hopefully it will make sense. Nowadays we do this with a laptop here in Logic or Pro Tools or whatever. You can actually see the waveform like that, and you can actually tap to transient, cut, and just, I was like, oh my God, I mean, what amazing revolution, what amazing, advancement has happened since then, But I learned the old school way, very old fashioned way, and I'm grateful for that. But now that I have this, okay, and after many years of investing in gear and knowledge, like put everything that I have learned along the way into music production, and the question was, what am I doing with all of this? For many years I was just working in a guitar shop, and I felt like, hey, at least I work in music, I work in retail, but I work in Denmark Street, I work in one of the most famous streets in the world when it comes down to music shops, and it has a history. So I felt like I belong in the music industry somehow, even if it's retail, I still belong here, and it's London, right? So I felt like I belong. But then I didn't have a band like my friends. Other friends have a band, and they were in a band, and they were doing other things on the side. They all work in guitar shops, so they all play, right? So they're all playing, they're all doing something on the side with music. But for me, it was not like that. For me, I would just finish work and go home. So I was having trouble finding something to do with music and all this knowledge and all this passion that I have for music over the years. I kind of felt a little bit jealous of my friends back in England, those who had a band and had released CDs and everything as artists. They were always gigging, and I just didn't felt that I wanted to do that. I felt very out of place, and yet I'm feeling a little bit envious and jealous that they are somehow pursuing their dreams as musicians, And it's a cool thing, You work in London, you work in a guitar shop, and then at night you go in and play in a pub or whatever, I mean, the 12 Bar Club was right there. And there's many, clubs around central London where you can just go and play. So I was thinking to myself, I mean, if I come from a rock background, I was playing in a band back in Venezuela, how come I'm not in a band in London? I mean, I'm in London, for fuck's sake. And I could easily be in a band. And I could easily just record an album and just do the touring and do the whole thing as my friends were doing. But I didn't. For some crazy reason, I was just not, that was not the path that I wanted to take. So I was setting up a small studio, a home studio at home. Obviously, it's a home studio at home. Very small, right? Like a computer, just a keyboard, some guitars. And then I was just looking for ways to do something with that. I had nothing to show for many years. I had a few demos, but nothing else. I mean, there was nothing tangible. And at a time, I came across this online course from ThinkSpace, right? I mean, they have a massive YouTube channel now, right? But back then, they didn't have a YouTube channel, I believe, because that was like 2007, 8 maybe, I don't remember. But I enrolled in this music for media course. And I kind of got my first taste of music production. In fact, I still have that course somewhere. Let me just see if I can find it. Yeah, I still have it here. Look. Musicforthemedia.com. Music for media. So I enrolled in this course, and they sent me this. Okay? Guy Malcolmore. Okay? Guy has a massive, look, I don't know if you can see that. I might have to tag him. I have mentioned to him a couple of times on his YouTube channel. Course director, music for media. 2009, actually. ThinkSpace, yeah. Guy Malcolmore. So they will send me this, okay, through the mail. This is before there was internet, but CDs, right, like CD-ROMs and whatnot. And they will have units, right? Like how to compose. Obviously, it's music for media. And this is the first time I came across corporate video. Talking about corporate videos. So I will compose music, and they will give me some feedbacks. I printed the feedback on email back then. Now, this is a massive book, man, okay? Massive book. So it's all about music for media. I invested quite a lot of money on this. Back then, it's a lot of money, all right? It's the first online course that I invested in music production. So I will do that, and I found something really fascinating about that. There was something that I said, like, wow, this is something that I could do probably, right? Like compose music. First time I hear about corporate videos and what corporate music is. And I did that. And that's the first glimpse of like, maybe I can go in that direction. I just don't know how to enter this world of music composition. I mean, back then, Pawn 5 was already out. Audio Jungle was already out as well. But I just didn't came across these things. This course was more like working with film producers and, you know, with people. It was not so much about music licensing per se. It was more about music for media in general. Great information in that book, by the way, or in that course. So the way it will work is that I will compose to certain briefs, and then I will get a feedback. They will send me the videos, and I will have to score, like for a commercial. So I was really fascinated. And I really loved it. I really enjoyed it. And then after that, we moved to the UK, from the UK here to Greece. And I didn't carry on. I was just, in a new country. My daughter had just been born. So life transitioned yet again. And I had a hard time finding my way into music. I had all this gear now. I had 11 guitars, the computers, the desk, the whole thing, man. And here I am in a foreign country, flat broke. I became a stay-at-home dad. That's the reason why I started this YouTube channel, by the way. And I was looking for ways to monetize my skills as a musician, as a composer. I had to justify all this gear, pretty much. Right? I mean, I felt ashamed that I had all this knowledge, all this information about music. I knew how to play the guitar, but yet I have nothing to show for, like tangible. Like say, like, hey, at least I'm an artist, right? I have a CD, or I have something, okay? And I had to justify all this gear and all the things because now, hey, I'm a father, I'm married, I'm a grown-up, right? And I have to really provide. I mean, even if I'm a stay-at-home dad, I need to do something. And that's where I came across music licensing. I came across different libraries, and I decided to just, get my act together, get my shit together, so to speak, and then I started submitting music to certain libraries so I can earn money. I mean, money was the main motivation here, but at the same time, it was working from home or doing something with the skills that I have, and stuff that I was already doing, because I was already recording demos and I was recording ideas, but I was just not putting it somewhere, something tangible, like from start to finish, and then put it somewhere so I can get something in return, whether that's somebody listen to it or getting paid for it. So I was trying to find for ways to see how can I make that happen for myself. So that became a big motivator for me. And I said to myself, you know what? If I have all this knowledge and all these skills and all of these qualifications under my belt, I must be able to do something with it. So that was a big motivator. And I felt like I was letting myself down if I didn't pursue music, because, it's something that I said yes to many years ago, that I wanted to do music. I wanted to play the guitar. I mean, I will be happy just play the guitar. Okay, but I need a focus. I need something to focus on. If I'm not going to be a guitar performer, then I must be able to do something with the music. I want to give it expression. How can it be out there in the world for somebody to just listen to it or do something useful with my music? So when I came across this music licensing thing, I think it was the perfect fit. Because it's not about me. It's not about me being out there as an artist, which I really, really like. I'm behind the scenes. I'm like in a lab, right? Like I'm composing. And I'm just doing what I do, which is make music. And it finally clicked that I can actually just sit down write music, compose it, produce it, mix it, upload it, and let it go. And that's something that fascinated me about music licensing and royalty-free libraries, is the process of publishing music on a regular basis without having anybody that is saying to me, stop, right? There's no gatekeeper. I mean, you have to go through a review process, but there's nobody saying to you, don't compose any more music, you know? And that's something that I really enjoy. And from that day on, it has always been a pursuit or a philosophical meditation of, am I doing everything that I can to express myself, even if it's through the medium of music licensing? Obviously, the response from the universe or from the world is in the way of money. I get paid, which is the reason why I started in the first place. But beyond that, which is going back to the question that my friend was asking, is that feeling that I am not living up to my full potential. That has always been a problem. You know, see how maybe my wife or my kids perceive me. I will hate for them to see me and perceive me as like, he has so much talent, so much ability, and he's not doing anything with it. You know, I think that's a sad thing. I don't think they see me like that, but you probably have seen this in your life. Like, see somebody that is really talented or somebody that has a lot of potential, and they're not doing anything with it. And you say like, wow, that's a shame. You know, he could have been a great writer or a great painter or a great actor or whatever, you know. But he never lived to that full potential. So I will always be in pursuit of that. I mean, at one point, playing the guitar, I wanted to be as fast as possible. Like, I was just practicing, and I just want to be speed for the sake of speed, and it's not going anywhere, really. I'm more fascinated by putting music together, composition. So I have focused along the way in different ways. Obviously, working in a guitar shop, you want to be as fast as possible. So all those years working in a guitar shop for me was really important to just get my chops together, you know, because they have fluctuated over the years, you know. Over the years, I've been like, okay, away from the guitar, meaning that I was not very active, and then I went back at it. So when I started to work in the guitar shop, I was like, okay, I've traveled a little bit. I've been disconnected from the world of music because I'm not working in a recording studio anymore. I lived in the States. Now I just arrived in England with one guitar. I better get my chops together because these people are playing really, really good, right? So for me, it has always been a balance between Daniel, the guitar player, the artist, right, the one that wants to be artistic, and the producer, the one that has to, hey, let's make this work so we can publish this somewhere. And in my case, is publishing, and what I mean by publishing is just release it to the world as fast as possible. And in my case, is to put it online so it can be licensed. And I enjoy that process very much. And it's the same process of recording YouTube videos. I mean, I record a YouTube video, and I like this whole thing, that I can just have an idea for a video, record it, and then upload it. And I'm done. It's published. I don't go back and rethink it and try to re-edit it or try to send it somewhere so he can color code it or whatever, or color enhance it and do this fancy editing. I like the process of idea and then publishing. So I like that very much about YouTube. I found YouTube and music licensing very similar. And it's always the same question. Am I giving everything that I have with these YouTube videos? Because I do have something that I want to say. I want to share my story, and I want to connect with others, and hopefully that can inspire others to do something similar in their own journey, in their own path. We all have a path to follow. But for me, as I grow older, has always been that. Like, am I living to my full potential? I have chosen music to be a form of expression, and it's something that comes naturally to me. It's probably the only thing that I said to myself that I will not quit. I mean, when I was growing up, I was into martial arts. I was really good at martial arts. I mean, so good that when I quit, I was a kid anyways. That's before I went into music. I was so good that I stopped going to the martial art school. And the sensei, the teacher, and the director of the school, he was calling home, asking about me. I was probably like 12 or 13. And I quit overnight because I wanted to dedicate myself to music. I mean, I could have probably carried on, but I knew that I had to make a choice. Because if I was going to be into martial arts, then I will have to dedicate my life to that. And I think I take a lot of that, of martial arts and the discipline and the habits into my life. Because I was doing martial arts since I was 5 years old. I had an uncle who had a gym and everything for martial arts. So I've been doing martial arts since I was 5 years old until I was like 13, roughly. And I was really good at it. I was obsessed with Bruce Lee, man. And I got into the whole 80s ninja thing. There was like some films, at least in Venezuela, there were a lot of films about ninjas and martial arts. Anything martial arts and Bruce Lee, you know, Chuck Norris, all of this, I was into, man. I'm not a fighter, but I love the whole thing about martial arts. So I do believe that everything that I learned from martial arts, of mindset, personal control, if you will, constraints and discipline, I bring that into music for sure, and into my life. I have it somehow very unconscious that I'm very obsessive and very controlling with certain things, and I'm very disciplined. So going back to that idea that why do I sit down and what's my why, is because I have developed this discipline for certain things. I just go through the motions. But my reasons to do music, and the reasons why I do music, is because I guess it's that fear of not living up to my full potential, even if it's in the context of music licensing, right? I need to be in touch with the real world somehow, because I spent so much time by myself working in my desk, making music, that it didn't have any outlet. It was not out there. So nobody was listening to it. I was not making any money with it. And money for me is just an exchange of this. If I'm making some money with the music, or at least in the beginning, because now I make more than I ever dreamed of by just composing music. But when I was just making a little bit of money with my music, I felt like, wow, so that means that it has some value. Money is just an exchange of this value that my music has. So it must be useful to somebody that I don't know. I mean, in the beginning, we think like, well, maybe it's my wife who bought a track because she feels sorry for us. She feels sorry for me. Maybe my mom bought a track. She realized that I'm trying to pursue this dream. You know when you open a shop or something, or you're selling something online, and you're like, hey, go and check out my shop or my website. I'm selling T-shirts or whatever. And then is your wife or your husband that buys the first customer, that buys something. Just to, here in Greece we say kaliarchi, or like a good start of your business. Right? So in the beginning, I felt like that. I'm like, is somebody buying my tracks, and is somebody that I know maybe? Because that's how insecure we are of ourselves. But the reality is that there are people out there that are just gonna, if you've done your job correctly, they will find your music and they will buy it. And nowadays, I just expect sales to happen because I'm doing my job. I'm working on music. I'm uploading. I'm active. I'm proactive. Okay, and I want to be in the service of others. I know it's a little bit of a long video, but I really wanted to just dive deeper because we all have different reasons of why we make music. And when it comes down to music licensing, we all have different dreams as well and aspiration. A lot of composers want to be Hans Zimmer, right? They want to be somebody famous like that. They want to be a famous composer. There's nothing wrong with having this type of ambitions, but there must be a deeper meaning. And for me, it has always been that. Am I living up to my full potential as a musician? And am I doing everything I can today to pursue that? I hope this video finds you well, my friend. If you're new to music licensing, to royalty-free libraries, you would like to get started, download my free guide. I hope I've answered this question. It's a little bit philosophical. You might say like, well, why don't you pursue music in different ways? But I'm very specific of what I want to do. And that's why I always talk on my videos that I don't collaborate with other musicians. I don't play in bands, even though I might want to play in a band in the future, because there's nothing more fun than playing with other musicians. But It's not my focus, right? I want to do that on the side. I mean, I don't know, okay? But for me, I know that I am in my element when I'm here by myself, in left to my own devices. And composing music in different genres is just a matter of me tapping into those things and finding ways of expressing myself, even within the frame or the context of music licensing. And I enjoy that very much. It helps me work with constraints. It helps me stay focused. Otherwise, I'm just diluted all over the place. And there's so many options in that DAW when it comes down to sounds and ideas. So I think that we need, or at least I need, a sense of focus and a sense of purpose. Like this is a business, and I'm in the music business. It just happens to be that it's music licensing business. I'm not here to play around. I'm not here to waste time. I'm here to earn money with my music. And if I was an artist, I would probably be thinking the same way. Okay? If we're going to go on tour, I want to make sure that we're earning money by going on tour. Are we going to earn money by selling t-shirts? Are we going to earn money by selling CDs? I don't know how bands make money nowadays, but you will have to budget to get from one place to another. So I need to have a purpose. And for me, I'm not just an artist anymore, or at least the way I perceived myself back in the day. I'm just an artist, right? I'm a businessman, and music happens to be my business. And today it's just one of my businesses. But it all started like that, doing that mindset shift that every single piece of music that I release is a product that is out there for somebody to use. So if I'm making t-shirts, I want to make sure that the materials are good, the design is good. So I don't see why there's any difference with music. Anyways, this is a longer video than I expected to be. Probably carry on talking a little bit more about this philosophy of music making and why I do what I do, and find so much joy in doing this, because I will do this even if I was not making money. But there's nothing worse than a broke artist, and there's nothing worse than somebody cannot find a way to put their art into good use. All right? And yes, money is important, especially when it comes down to the art. My dad was a famous photographer, a very successful photographer, all right? But he studied law, but he was never a lawyer. But he was brave enough to follow that dream of becoming a photographer. And we've been told that we cannot make money with our art, so I'm always rebelling against the status quo, I guess, in one way, shape, or form. Back then I will rebel in different ways, but now I rebel by saying, you know what, what do you do for a living? I do that. Well, fuck you. I make music and YouTube videos. And I teach people how to build online businesses as well. I work here. I wear flip-flops all day. I don't need to leave the house to earn money. That's the way I rebel against the status quo and against the world, because I do consider myself a rebel. I do consider myself an outsider, an outlier, or whatever. I do consider myself a little bit of like, not that I'm superior to other people when I walk out of the door, out of my house, but more like I do what I do, man. So I'm a rock star without being one. I guess that's the story I tell myself anyways. And I want to live like that. I want to be like, hey, I go to work, and I have my guitar. This is my work. But I also do YouTube videos. I also have online courses. I'm an educator. I have a passion for teaching. Okay? So I teach about music. Not only that, I also teach about business, about how can somebody build an online presence and build an online business by teaching what they know, whatever that is. Okay? Like this course that I'm talking to you about, Guy is a massive composer. His YouTube channel blew up a few years ago. Their whole business is teaching, right? So I want to find purpose and I want to be useful. I think that being useful is what's important here. And then the story I tell myself and the way I project myself into the world, here in the real world, not on video only, but in the real world when I go around, is that I do what I do, man. And I like when people have this thing like, I don't know what this guy does at home all day, And then when they find out that I do music, they're like, whoa, so you sing. Like, let me hear you sing, you know. But it's this mystique that I really enjoy. And then when I get into the YouTube and the business and the courses and the other YouTube channel, which is all about mindset and personal development, they go like, what the hell is this guy all about? So I really enjoy that, okay? And I think that we all have to find the why of what we do this. But I can talk to you about this here for the next 3 hours and try to really psychoanalyze myself, if you will, and reveal more as I'm talking, okay? Because I know that there's more reasons why, and the status quo and how I rebel myself against the status quo is one of them, which I didn't think about that really. But anyways, I hope this video finds you well, my friend. I'll see you in another video. Thank you so much for all the love and support. It means a lot.